Okay, I think it's recording. So welcome. This is just some information about year 10. We're gonna talk through about working together, key members of staff, some key dates throughout the year, attendance, timings of the school day, class charts, homework, special educational needs, and safeguarding, and how we can support um, the students in year 10. So firstly, we work together, we base the whole school on the triangle of trust. So being clear how we work together is really important. And we ensure consistency between home, school, and students because we think that's the best way that works for the students we have here. And as parents, we think it's really important to make sure that we're all involved in this together. In terms of what we expect from the students, we expect them to come to school every day, obviously, arrive on time with the correct uniform, make sure they're at their lessons on time, try their hardest, present their work as neatly as they can, complete the work to the best of their ability, complete the homework, again, to the best of their ability, ask for help if they're struggling, share their worries, but also celebrate their success. I think it's really important to emphasize that we ask them to try their personal best. We don't expect the same from everyone. We just want them to try their hardest. In terms of how we work together with you at home, we want to help us, basically all of us together, to ensure that they're in the correct uniform, they arrive on time with the correct equipment, they work hard and complete their homework on class charts. So you should have access to class charts as well as the students. Attend parents' evenings and discussions about your child's progress. Engage with provision map if your child has extra needs, and meet with school staff to discuss the progress if requested. The bottom one, I believe, says support the school's policies, including rewards and sanctions. In terms of what we do as a school, we provide a learning environment that's stimulating, challenging, and safe and caring. Ensure each child has the support and guidance to achieve their full potential. Report regularly on each student's progress through reports and through class charts. And set clear rules and maintain the highest standards of teaching and learning and behaviour for the students. In terms of this year, there have been a few changes in tutors. So obviously I'm head of year, and the following tutors are Mr. Matthews, Miss Featonby, Miss Osborne, and Mr. Graham, and their contact email address is on the screen. We will send this out, I believe, after, but everything's on the school website if you need to find out any teacher's email address. They would be your best point of contact for any issues, and then they can pass it on to relevant teachers or to me if necessary. So they're the first person to go to if you need anything. Some key dates for this year. Meet the tutor will be on the 11th of October. So you'll get to have a conversation with your tutor, see how they're getting on, how your child's getting on in school, and meet them if you haven't met them before. We then have parents' evening on the 8th of May, which is good timing for setting them up for year 11 and looking at what they need to do before their mocks and seeing what progress they've made over the year. We have a Key Stage 4 trip to Paris, the 8th to the 10th of February, and then there's a geography trip on the 20th to the 23rd of February. Work experience, we don't have set dates yet, but it will be in the summer term. So if you have any people in mind or any places where your child can go, or based on what they want to do in the future, we can start looking at that, but we'll probably start looking at that after Easter specifically. Attendance. So attendance is something that is really important in school, and it's correlated with how well they do in school. So on the next slide, I'll go to it now. Most students that get their target grades or above have the highest percentage attendance in school, and it tends to be that the slightly lower percentage attendance, they don't always necessarily meet their target grades. So obviously the more they're in school, the more they have access to their teachers and the curriculum and the resources that we can provide them to get those target grades for their exams. There was another slide, Mr. Payne. I think it may have disappeared. Oh, it's here. On percentage of time wasted in school, but we'll come back to that in a second. So students can access the school building from 8 a.m. and the school starts at 8:30. It's really important that students are in school for 8:30 because that is when firstly they get registered as being in the building. And secondly, in form time or tutor time this year, especially we're covering PSHE, careers, study skills, and the big read. And some of those elements are really important, especially at year 10, because they're covering the skills that they'll need for the future. It's really important to learn about the career opportunities that they have. And it's also really important with PSHE to learn about what's going on outside of school, but also study skills so they know how they're revising for their exams to get the best out of them. We focus on a student-centered approach to teaching and learning. So in each lesson, they should be activating prior knowledge. Then they should go through some retrieval practice of some sort, look at new knowledge, how to process this. There'll be guidance in their practice. Then there'll be independent practice. And then there'll be an opportunity to reflect and respond on this. And that is how, in some form, that will happen in every lesson. Moving on to homework. Homework allows students to consolidate their skills and understanding. It helps it become part of a family routine to build those positive habits and skills that will help students throughout life. It's also helping them get the difficulty and interest level right so that they can complete this independently. It might be that they've got something really well in the lesson and it's an extension of that, or it might be that they haven't quite understood it in the lesson and it gives them that time at home to sit and go through it and try and understand it at their own pace. It's really important that this builds an effective partnership between home and school and also allows you the opportunity to be involved in your child's education. So in year 10, they should receive 35 to 45 minutes per subject per 4 hours of learning. This is all logged on class charts. So as I said, students can access their own class charts and you should be able to access their class charts as well. If you don't have access to that, you can email reception and they will be able to give you your login details if you can't get onto that. Also on class charts, that's where we have our behaviour management system. So all positive and negative incidents are recorded on class charts. It's really important that you're discussing this with your children because it celebrates the positives, but also does highlight the negatives as well. This is something that we really focus our policy on at school, and a lot of tutors will go through this in form time with them as well. If your child receives a detention, it should notify you and it will probably email you as well. And we use that time in detention to repair and rebuild the relationship so that the same thing isn't repeated. So it's an understanding, but also builds that positive relationship back up with the teacher so they don't go into the next lesson like worried, or it gives them a fresh start basically. So in terms of lateness and behaviour, the 2023 Ofsted report suggested that 50% of secondary school teachers estimated that 6 minutes of each lesson was lost due to poor behaviour, while 12 estimated that 10 minutes were lost per lesson. This essentially equals 30 to 60 minutes per day of lesson time being lost, and over a week, that's 5 lessons a week. Worst case scenario, obviously. It's really important because all students deserve the best quality education, so it's vital that behaviour is challenged to prevent that happening over a long period of time, because in the long run that could essentially equate to 1 year of learning being lost. So we need to make sure that all children are trying their best for themselves, but also for everyone else in their class. In terms of special educational needs, students in all year groups who have an EHCP or SEN support should have a plan, and these are accessed through Provision Map. The register is fluid, so unless your child has an EHCP, they could move on and off the register for support, depending on how they're getting on across each year. The first weeks of September are really busy whilst all interventions are identified and timetabled. So the aim is for all interventions to begin by the mid to end of September. All teachers have access to the learning plans and they will all read them for their classes so they know every child's needs in that lesson. The form tutor reviews their progress against their targets at the end of each staff term and the end of each term, and that's communicated home. If your child does have SEN, and you don't know what to do, the first steps are to contact the form tutor, and they should be able to answer it or amend any learning plans. And if they're not sure, then they'll forward it on to the SEN team, who will be able to give them more specific information. In terms of what to do if you're concerned your child does have special educational needs, your first thing to do again would be contact the form tutor. They will send out a round robin to get information on how your child's doing at school. And then the next steps will be send that to the SEND team so they can decide what happens and where it goes from there. In terms of safeguarding, if you have any concerns, our safeguarding lead is Mr. Payne, and then it's Miss L and Mr. Murphy as well if you or that your child needs to go talk to someone. You can email the safeguarding at sirthomasfremantle.org email address, and that'll be picked up by staff during office hours. If you're really concerned outside of those hours, you can obviously report it online or call the numbers that are on the screen. Finally, obviously, it's a tough year for year 10 especially. They're going through a huge stage of development and sometimes they need extra support in certain areas. So there's extra support from the NSPCC, Young Minds and Child Bereavement. So there's websites there, but alternatively, they can always come and ask any of their tutors, me, any of the safeguarding team, or any staff really at the school, and they'll be able to direct them anywhere that they think will help them. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and me and Mr. Payne will answer them. Mr. Payne, do you have anything to add?
I think you've covered things very succinctly, Ms. Rath. I would like to say thank you everyone for joining. I think the most important thing is this is the first year of a 2-year process in making sure that we understand these GCSEs, and it's so important that all our year 10s hit the ground running. And the best way we can do this is by making sure we're all being tight around these ideas of homework, that we're getting our communication right. And if you have any questions for teachers, tutors, that we do ask these questions from an early point and don't think that it will just get better and things will change. And then I'd be really confident that we're going to be able to open up huge amounts of success in a year and a bit's time. But yeah, please fire any questions our way. We will make sure this presentation is shared out with you all as well, and we'll stop the recording in a second. But thank you so much for joining us this afternoon/evening. And thank you, Ms. Rath.
Thank you.